In today's episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Lucas to talk all about Fossil Fracas that's on Kickstarter. Then we'll see what's on Kickstarter.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Climate's getting colder, hairless apes called humans are showing up everywhere. Find your predators, find your prey, and make sure your team makes it through the not-so-nice age.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me either, but this is the story of Fossil Fracas, a new game on Kickstarter, and today we're lucky enough to have on the creator and mastermind behind this game. Is that right, Lucas? Is that how you fall in line with Fossil Fracas?
That's perfectly right, Lake. How are you doing?
Not too bad. What about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for having me on. It's definitely been a pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you. So glad we were able to get in contact and be able to get you on the show so soon. So that's awesome. Now, before we jump into your game and everything that is good about it, let's rewind a little bit if we could. How did you get into playing tabletop board games, Lucas?
So I've been playing board games, well, since I was a kid, like a lot of people that I assume know. But really, one of the big ways I got into tabletop games was in college. As currently, I'm a junior at Rowan University in New Jersey. I ended up getting into the honors concentration, and as one of the things that we do, we have little clubs that you can spend your time at. One of those happened to be the board game club and the tabletop RPG club. So I got to experience a lot of board games that I'd never seen before, a lot of social games, a lot of party games. And one of my especially favorites were games like Secret Hitler, Shadowhunters, the social deduction games that I really enjoyed playing with my small group of friends at the time. After some time, we realized there were a few problems with some of the games like that, things that we ran into we either didn't like or weren't quite too happy with. So I started designing a game well into my it was sophomore year at that time. I ended up coming up with a theme of how it was the Ice Age and animals were hidden, trying to survive as a group of prey or predators. And jumping in from that, there was a game design course at my university that was offered, fell into my major, so I decided to take that and run with the game. And at this point, I've got a Kickstarter up and running for Fossil Fracas.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So, what can you tell us about Fossil Fracas, Lucas?
So Fossil Fracas is a social deduction game, not too much unlike games like Secret Hitler, Shadowhunters, I believe games like Resistance, where everyone starts with a face down profile at the beginning of the game, which is randomly assigned to them. You're on one of two teams, predators or prey, and if you have an odd number of players, there's also a human thrown in the mix who doesn't share a team that they win with. Over the course of the game, you play investigative cards called Ochre to try to figure out who's on your team and who's out to get you, beat them down with actions, cause them to go extinct, and if your team is left standing, you win the game.
Okay, so it's a team game. So, per se, me and you were either on the same team or a different team, and we sat down and played together with a bunch of other people. What's my turn going to look like, or my team's turn?
So when you start off your turn, everybody begins the turn with the choice of drawing an ochre card and reading it, trying to memorize what it says, hand it face down to another player, they read it, hand it back to you, and carry out the action that's on the ochre. If they follow that action and say, like, this card affects me, then you know which team they're on based on the text on the card. So it's very much inspired, pretty heavily actually, by Shadowhunters, where that was a mechanic that we really liked, but we didn't feel had the right implementation, where people would just play the game and never get like a good idea of what's going on. So you start off with the choice to draw an ochre, an investigative card at any time. The next step in the turn is to either discard any number of cards or play an action. Now, since you start the game with 3 actions in your hand, you get the choice to either discard all of them if you don't like them, or you can play one, choose another player, and carry the action, either reducing, increasing their lifespan, or forcing them to discard cards or perform any number of actions that I have listed. After your action phase, or your discard, You end your turn by drawing until you have your starting hand size in the game. So, say I have 2 cards in my hand at the end of my turn because I played an action. I draw up to 3. If I had more than 3, I don't draw because I've got more than I started with. And the turn passes clockwise, and that begins the next player's turn.
Okay, and how do I tell if I win?
So you win once every player is revealed on the board, and they're all on your team. So, like I said earlier, when players go extinct, you're trying to figure out who's not on your team and cause them to go extinct with the action cards. So over time, players will reveal themselves to figure out who's on whose team, or if they realize it would be more advantageous to have it be out in the open. Because profiles in this game, with their face down nature, also have abilities on the other side that happen as soon as you reveal. So rather than have a choice to reveal, you have to strategically time that, because if you don't reveal until the end and your teammate starts attacking you, you could cause your teammate to go extinct, and then you might lose the game a lot easier.
Uh-oh. I can imagine with the cards, they have special abilities that would help you get somebody to become extinct. Is that right?
Oh yeah, go extinct. One of our characters, which is Carl the Megalodon, the giant shark from the Pleistocene and the Pliocene. That card, when you reveal it, allows your actions to deal 1 additional point of damage to another player. So sometimes, like when I'm talking about revealing cards, sometimes it is better to reveal earlier if you know who's on your team and if you're in the right place too. So it gets a little confusing if you're not paying attention to who's who. But with the option to draw an ochre on any turn, if you don't know who's who, you can always hand it to someone else, and you can pretty easily figure out who's on whose team, because it doesn't give you a hint so much as tell you which team they're on.
Okay, so that sounds pretty cool. Now, during the creation of it, during playtesting and whatnot, was there ever anything you had to scrap from the game because it just wouldn't work?
Oh, absolutely. Early playtesting, I was printing out cards with printer paper, and I was sleeving them with Magic the Gathering cards, which is something I played a lot of. So when we were playing first, or when we first started playing, there was the first round of the game where as soon as somebody revealed, they trapped another player in an infinite lock, where they had a card that forced them to discard their hand whenever they did. Another player had a card that forced them to only draw a certain amount of cards. So on their turn, they couldn't draw any cards at all. Sandwiched between these 2 players on the same team that just trapped them there. And when all their teammates went extinct, it got to be a bit of a mess.
Oh boy, sounds like it. So that's awesome that you're able to fix that. How did you know when you're ready to go to Kickstarter with it?
So Kickstarter timing has actually been pretty much based off of my schedule with university coming up. As a college student, I don't have a ton of time over the semesters to work on the card game, where I'm working on illustration, research. As I'm a biomedical art major, so a lot of my time is spent researching and illustrating anatomy, animals, and zoology, which is my big focus. So Not So Nice Age launching officially over the summer, and about this time, gives me a good window to be able to gauge interest, see if there's anything wrong with my campaign that I'll need to go back and fix if I decide to make changes to the game, and potentially try to go for crowdfunding again. And it gives me a good amount of time to keep track of backers, so that when the semester rolls around, I won't lose sight of what's happening. I won't fall behind Kickstarter stretch goals, and I'd actually be able to engage with, interact with the people who are interested in the game, but might have questions for it.
Okay, so that's good to hear that you have that, and you talked about kind of gauging, see if there's interest, and also seeing if you have to relaunch or whatnot. Now, a couple of things, looking at through your page or whatnot, the art looks amazing. The art as well as how you have your Kickstarter page. The only thing I would wonder about, if I can ask, there doesn't look to be any videos up, like how to play or Kickstarter intro video. What's going on with that?
Yeah, the Kickstarter intro video was something I was actually working with a third party, somebody I know personally for a while. Unfortunately, that did drop out, where we weren't able to continue working on the video, so it was scrapped. With the time constraints, I decided to push forward with a small buffer time to account for that. I'm currently working on a placeholder video that goes through the game, but doesn't have I don't believe has the level of, I'd say, um, personal appeal and interaction that I want it to. So the video is definitely in the works, and it's something I really, really want to get on the Kickstarter before we hit about the halfway point, because I think with Kickstarter now becoming pretty widespread as a platform, videos are absolutely important to a campaign, and that's part of the raised expectations that have gone up since Kickstarter started. So there's definitely major plans for working on it as I currently am, and hopefully I'll be able to get it out pretty quickly.
Okay, that's good that you realize that. A lot of times talking to people, I don't know, yeah, that's good that you're able to realize that and stuff, and gave it a little bit of a buffer. So that's why it's over 30 days. I don't remember exactly when you launched.
The official period was 37 days. This week I've pretty much spent starting to get the game out there more, talking to people I know who are maybe able to help me with the technical end of things on like things like the video, any additional work I need to do. It's a little difficult, especially with budget constraints, because as a college student, tuition plays a heavy factor into how much I can personally fund the game and how much I'm actually able to contribute myself, which is another big reason for Kickstarter. Um, College careers can be pretty expensive, so alongside making an expense like with the expensive of well side of the production for the card game, also trying to work within the boundaries of tuition and making sure I'm not putting sinking myself into too much debt out of college has been a pretty big concern for me. I'm one of the very few people operating the campaign, of which the other, I believe there's two of us who still want to continue, or two of them who still want to continue helping. They've been pretty good to me so far, because they're very close friends of mine too.
Okay, well that's good. So a little bit of justification on some of the things that you're doing or didn't do. So that's pretty cool. So somebody has a little bit of background on what's going on with that. So that's awesome. Thank you for that. Now, when it comes to Fossil Fracas, not so nice age. What makes your game pop is one my audience should go check out. And if they like what they see, back it on Kickstarter today so it can become a reality tomorrow.
So the biggest thing that I enjoyed about Not So Nice Age was that I get to work in this kind of goofy prehistoric theme that I don't really see too much. It's it's a little bit of a just like an absolute joy to work on for me, where there aren't many games about prehistoric animals, and there aren't many games that kind of jump into it with a goofy art style. Most of what you see is pretty serious, and it gets samey over time. I think Fossil Fracas as a series has a very, very likable aesthetic to it, very likable characters. And in terms of gameplay, I've designed it to be more or less modular, where there's multiple ways you can play the game. There will be multiple different types of game modes, so the game doesn't get stale like something like Secret Hitler, where you're playing the same game over and over. Fossil Fracas features, to begin with, a social deduction mode, much like Secret Hitler or Shadowhunters, but it also acts as a competitive duel mode too, where in the game mode I've termed Showdown, you draft a deck, or two decks actually, your profile deck and your action deck, and you're able to play a game that has a lot of inspiration on games like Keyforge, Magic, and some other actual trading card games I've played. So in the future, what I want to be able to do is establish a game where you can take the pieces from, go to another edition of it, and you'll still be able to play with those profiles, those actions, those ochres in at least some capacity. Where in some games, you just can't play without all the parts of one expansion.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, because me and some of my family, we don't necessarily care for the social deduction games, but we like a good old hands down battle against each other with the cards, and so that's kind of cool with the two editions or whatnot.
For Not So Nice Age, the first thing um, I really tested after the social deduction aspect was whether or not you could play it with two people, and it's gone over pretty well, in my opinion. I've played with a group of actually I have about five different playtesting groups right now. My first group is of course family. Second group, some other art majors and friends that I know. Third group, a bunch of students at Rowan. I have a tabletop RPG club that I actually run. It's one of our honors, pretty much D&D clubs, and also a local game store I've gone to at least a few times. So I have a pretty wide range of opinions at this point, on from casual players to some more of your hardcore players to people who don't really play board games at all. to people who are well above the age group I target to people who are also a little bit below.
Well, there you go. What has been the feedback? How is that aligned from the 5 different groups?
So I have a few friends between the groups who are a little bit more critical, and they've been able to pretty much spot on just tell me this isn't working, or I know exactly how to break this, or um, you need to redesign this. So I've gotten a lot of good constructive criticism and a lot of just criticism from some players who may have not fared so well in the game. Criticism overall has been pretty good for me in terms of taking a step back and looking at what's going on with Not So Nice Age. The aesthetic, people, I've gotten the most approval for the aesthetic. People love the characters, and some of my friends have some favorites. There's a character that's a moa in the game, which is a very large flightless bird that went extinct in New Zealand, actually a couple thousand years ago. And one of my players absolutely loves it because of how goofy it is and how much it reminds him pretty much of himself. Another player absolutely hates it because he thinks it's just too ridiculous.
And you said that's the Moa, the cat of the Moa, or whatever.
Yeah, Kata the Moa, which is an interesting thing because some of the names for the characters are also inspired by their location. Kata, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it completely correct, although I'm going off of some of the spell pronunciations, is laughter, um, chirping, like bird noises, pretty much in Maori, which is an indigenous dialect in New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of research and like I guess love put into the design, the naming, what they look like, where they're from, which has been a big thing for me too as a biomedical illustrator, where most of my work consists about or revolves around accuracy and making illustrations that look good, making design that people like and people will want to commission or use in their publications.
Yeah. So what is that exactly? Biomedical. You said it a couple times. The biomedical illustrator. What is that for? Like magazines, like National Geographic, or what exactly do you do? If you don't mind my asking.
Yeah, it's no problem. I love talking about it because it's been something I've been so passionate about even since I was young. Biomedical illustrators are people who've done anything from the like illustrations in museums to zoos to National Geographic magazines, health institutions, textbooks. Uh, One of my big inspirations as a child was Walking with Dinosaurs and uh, programs like When Dinosaurs Roamed America. All of the models and all the animals you see in those programs were made by biomedical illustrators, whether they're zoological illustrators, paleo artists, you name it. It's a very diverse field.
Okay. So more of the Okay, so is it more of the illustrations, like if you draw something or animate something? Is that what you're talking about?
Biomedical illustration is for for a pretty simple rundown of it. It's illustration with accuracy. So when we design something or illustrate something, we look back at actual science. We need to look at other artists' representations of it to see if they're accurate. We also need to go back and make sure that we're presenting the information factually and credibly too.
So yeah, so that sounds kind of interesting to me. That's pretty cool. And then it kind of plays into Fossil Fracas as well with the because that's kind of historical and different animals and stuff, isn't it? Kind of.
Fossil Fracas is a series I'll be working on within the next few years and hopefully throughout my career as a almost like a goofy take on prehistory where the first edition is a card game based on the ice ages and the Pleistocene. One of the next steps I'm actually planning on taking is moving back to the KT extinction where the meteor fell in the Yucatan Peninsula during the Cretaceous. And rather than have that be a card game, I've been considering designing a board game about that too, where players move around an actual representation of the United States at the time, plant down offspring, and try to get themselves set up before the game ends with the meteor colliding with the planet.
So that sounds pretty cool. So would that be like dinosaurs, or what would that be exactly?
Mostly dinosaurs in the game. Animals like pterosaurs, sea reptiles, fish, even mammals are will also be included. But it is mostly a game about playing as a dinosaur, and it captures some of the same mechanics where you have the hidden roles and the things like ochres and actions involved too. So you could take your mammoth from Not So Nice Age. You could take Monty the mammoth, place him in the board game, and he would function as a character. Gameplay wise, maybe not so much in the well the time and whether or not a mammoth should be in the Cretaceous North America.
Okay, maybe we'll be able to take the dinosaurs and put them into not so nice.
Yeah, not so nice. Absolutely. That's one of the big things about this series that I really want to push is being able to take what you have and play with it no matter which two parts of it you have.
Well, that sounds like a pretty cool idea, so that's good.
There's a few games, I believe, that have attempted it, but I haven't played too many that have expansions that really work together like that. One of the biggest examples I think is something like Dominion, where you can pretty much take any two sets and mash them up and still have a functioning game.
Okay, so yeah, so that's good that you're trying to do that, so that'd be awesome. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Somebody wants to keep an eye on that, like other stuff you're coming out, or they're listening after this is funded on Kickstarter or whatnot. How could they keep up with you minus coming to your hometown to stalk you?
Yeah, besides coming down to Jersey and finding me and then following me, I have a website, fossilfracas.com. There, I also run a blog where I post. Attempting to post a little bit more frequently now that things are starting to slow down a little. But you can comment on my posts, subscribe to my newsletter. Whenever I post an update on the blog, you'll receive an update by email. I also have an Instagram, Fossil Fracas, Facebook, Twitter, and beyond that, I post pretty frequently. So it shouldn't be it really shouldn't be too much posting. Hopefully.
Okay, and if you give me those links, I'll make sure I put them in the show notes so they can go ahead and follow along if they want. Now, yeah, we don't want to keep you all night, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf with us tonight, Lucas, to talk all about Fossil Fracas Not So Nice Age. It'll be on Kickstarter through Wednesday, the 7th of August. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No problem. Wow, that was great sitting down with Lucas. Now I'm pretty excited to play Fossil Fracas. If you are too, make sure you go ahead and jump on over and back the game on Kickstarter so we can make it a reality. Now let's go with Batterina Leaf. Where are we going, Batterina Leaf?
Kickstarter Corner!
Ignite is a simple, mechanically themed card game with board game elements. The goal is to destroy your opponent's forge before they destroy yours. Each player is given a game board and a 30-card deck full of minions called a forge. The game plays similarly to other games in the genre. Cards have attack, health, and cost values, but the rules are less complicated and more fun, making it easier to start and harder to stop. The main mechanic of the game is Ignite, of course. In this game, your bots will ignite, hopefully, many times. How will they ignite? With these two dice. When your bot ignites, simply roll the Ignite dice to determine which target you hit and for how much. The damage corresponds to the card's Ignite values. This makes the game fun and chaotic, but fear not. To win, you must power up your bot's Ignite abilities with your other cards, the Forgelings. Forgelings are mischievous, trigger-happy, goblin-like creatures that live in your forge, and they work well with your bots. Forgelings upgrade your bots, help them ignite multiple times in random explosions, or provide powerful, game-changing effects. The Ignite decks are expertly designed to make every game uniquely exciting and crazy, and to make combining cards simple and fun. To add more players, just sit in a circle and your Ignite effects hit both neighboring players. So, what are you waiting for? Want to ignite your bots already? Help bring Ignite to life, and we'll provide you with a portal to the world of bots and forgelings. Not to be played within 10 feet of combustible materials. A game of crazy combos and epic explosions. Kickstarter coming June 2019.
If you liked any of the games we talked about in today's episode, make sure you check out their Kickstarter campaigns to show them and us a little love. Backing them goes a long way. Plus, make sure to stay up to date on all the giveaways we're doing over at thegiveawaygeek.com. there will be at least 2 to 3 new giveaways going live over there next week. It's our least favorite time as well as yours, so until next episode, make sure you go ahead and get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others in the geekfold by sharing our episodes with others, as well as keeping up with the giveaways we're doing over at thegiveawaygeek.com. Gamer Leaf out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.